Let's bring in Niall Stanage, White House columnist with The Hill newspaper. Niall, nice to see you. Wish it was in person, but glad to have you on the show either way.
Good to be here.
As we just listened to Kristen Fisher's report, you get the feeling that this is a White House and now this outside legal team who is having trouble getting on message.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. You know, you look at this kind of verbal acrobatics that is taking place over the question of whether the president is under investigation or not. Now, some of that may, to paraphrase a former president, depend on what the meaning of investigate is. But clearly, I think President Trump's actions are being looked at. But yet the White House and the president's own personal legal team seem to be struggling to get a consistent strategy to push back against that, Leland.
The strategy, at least of the president himself, seems twofold, which is attack the investigation as a witch hunt, which we've seen him now use that term multiple times, and at the same time pivot and say, by the way, I'm doing great as president. What is the administration, chief of staff, senior advisors, how are they feeling about the effect of this pivot, if you will, on their ability to actually get things done like health care this week?
The people who I speak to in Washington, in the general orbit of the president, are very concerned about this. Their worry is that this investigation really swallows up their legislative agenda, makes it difficult for them to get a focus onto this. It was only earlier this month that they were trying to bill a particular week as Infrastructure Week. That became almost an in-joke in Washington. So I think there is a real problem here with the extent to which this issue is dominating the headlines and therefore driving other things out of the headlines.
You know, there was Infrastructure Week, and then this past week there was Work Training Week, and still on the Sunday shows you've got the headliner, which was Jay Sekulow from the president's legal team, embroiled in this conversation. Take a listen.
Here's what you're trying to do, Chris, and I appreciate it.
Now you're reading minds again. Now you're reading minds again.
No, Chris. I deal with fact and law.
Well, then don't tell me what I'm trying to do, because you don't know what I'm trying to do. Actually, what I'm trying to get is a straight answer out of you.
Who does the Trump legal team, aside from the president, who do they view as their best spokesman or advocate for the president?
That's a great question, and I think Jay Sekulow just learnt the dangers of tangling with Chris Wallace there. He didn't come off, in my view, particularly well. Now, the president has hired another veteran Washington lawyer, John Dowd, to add to his own personal legal team. But President Trump is clearly such a distinctive communicator himself that he considers himself the best advocate for his position. And I think it's difficult when other people, be they political people or be they members of his legal team, try to take that on themselves.
How is the White House, because every time the president tweets, every journalist rushes in to the next briefing or gaggle and then demands explanations on the tweet, and it seems as though the answer that is now consistently coming out of whether it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders or out of the press secretary, Sean Spicer, is the tweet speaks for itself. So is that what they're going to have to keep relying back on, is no matter what the question is, well, the tweet speaks for itself, and then try to move on?
To a large extent, I think it is. I also think that the White House is now trying to basically transfer all inquiries regarding the Russian matter to the president's private legal team. But yes, this issue of the president's tweeting is something that perplexes even strong allies of his, because they worry that he trips himself up or that people in the White House end up having to explain tweets rather than putting forth their preferred message, and that's the problem.
Well, we've heard the president's message, at least as it relates to some things, and then come Wednesday he's going to be in Iowa, so he'll have a bully pulpit there as well. Niall, appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, Leland.
All the best.